Welcome to my latest experiment. This is the big one, the one I've been waiting for all my life.
What is it?
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Oh my God.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
And there is no one that does it better.
The Guy and Harley podcast, streaming all over your face.
Perhaps that was the most important part.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Pigville on the internet. The country we live in is built by slaves, beat on and murdered and stuffed in their graves. You put a slave owner on the $1 bill, and you want to know why I kill people? I'm Harley Neville. Welcome along to the Guy and Harley podcast.
And I'm Guy Pigton. Who was that?
That was the Insane Clown Posse, also known as ICP. Great group. They do get a bit of a bad rap.
Well, they've gotten a bit of a bad rap by you on this on this podcast.
Well,
when you expose their ignorance with regards to magnets.
Fucking magnets. How do they work? Look, apart from when they jumped the shark and said that scientists were lying about how magnets work and the answer is actually God, the rest of their career was very good.
Well, the first chunk of it.
Yeah.
Right. And then they kind of went off way off the deep end.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But I like that. I really like that lyric, actually.
Feeling that one?
Yeah, it's actually quite relevant, really, if you think about it.
They do have a lot of very insightful lyrics. They're just interspersed with jokes about beheading your wife and stuff like that.
It's just interspersed with blatant ignorance. And that's why sometimes it's hard to decipher. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, I just watched They Live recently again, which is a John Carpenter classic with Rowdy Roddy Piper in the lead, which we also mentioned a while ago. And it was made in 1987 or something like that. All the ideas in it very relevant to today. Consumerism, mind control, subtly sort of seeping into the culture. I highly recommend everyone kind of watch it, because it's like, well, and the aliens, the aliens are sort of controlling us. That's what this is about. And it's like, spend money, obey. All these subliminal messages are being sent to us, and it's kind of like, yeah, that is kind of the way we're all kind of getting, I feel like it's worse now. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of worse. But it's a great movie, and I just wish that everyone could have those shades that they put on to kind of see things as they really are.
I remember seeing that as a kid, actually. I have seen that one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't remember too much about it, but I remember the guy putting on the shades to see people and stuff like that.
It's pretty cool.
Well, I'm pretty scared about the future of humanity. The more I read, the more worried I'm becoming. It's really a concern, just the way that these things happen, the decline of civilizations, is oftentimes, the day-to-day person doesn't really realize it's happening. So it's like, it's not a big deal if Britain, who cares if Britain exits the EU?
Who cares if Donald Trump is the president of the United States? Who cares about that?
Who cares if a climate denier becomes a literal climate denier in this day and age, becomes the president of climate change denier, becomes the president of the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world. It's just preposterous, and it's really scary because America, whether we like to admit it or not over here in New Zealand, America is a world leader.
They call the shots.
They do, and what America does, the rest of the world follows. They're the largest economy in the world, so if they have a clean and green sort of plan, the rest of the world will follow. But if America's just like, man, fuck it, let's make lots of money from fossil fuels and all the rest of it, well, the rest of the world's going to follow suit. And it's scary to think that the leader of that nation could be a reality TV star who inherited his money. He never lived in the real world. He was a multi-millionaire at birth, and
lost that all, I might add, and then made it back again. But squandered it all.
He's never ever lived in the real world.
Yeah.
You know, he's always lived in a strange reality TV bubble, sort of, you know, rich guy bubble.
Super rich, super privileged.
It's just, it's preposterous to think that you would nominate, that America would nominate somebody like that to be the leader of the free world.
Also, how is there, like, I really don't understand how the kind of the selection thing happens and, you know, the candidates come out, but it's like, how can these, like, all these really mediocre politicians come up that high in a matter, like Donald Trump?
Okay, but
2
Donald
years
Trump
ago
isn't
was
even a politician.
Well, that's
so
what I'm
how
saying.
did he do it? He bought his way in.
Yeah.
That's how he did it. He bought his way in because they're so fucking corrupt over there.
But that's
now.
what I'm saying. Like, is it so basic that essentially a celebrity, a reality TV celebrity business mogul can buy himself, you know, presidential candidacy?
Evidently you can, because Americans apparently, or the Republican Party at least, doesn't seem to mind that they're not nominating a politician. You know, like they were like, so who's going to be the Republican representative? We'll just choose this guy. We'll allow this to happen. He's not even a career politician. You know, the other people, at least they've been in politics for decades. And, you know, it's okay. Like Bernie Sanders has been there for decades. You know, like you can see how he could run, and even Hillary Clinton as well. But like Trump, 5 years ago, the fucking guy was on that Celebrity Apprentice.
But look, 5 years ago, that guy was on a professional wrestling show having a hair versus hair match with Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Just think about that for a second.
It boggles the mind. But what's really scary about it is that the democracy is so broken that this can actually happen. And the average Joe on the street is so far removed from the decisions being made by the elites at the top that they don't even care. You know, it's like, who cares who wins? You know, if you're on minimum wage, right, you don't give a fuck who wins because you're just going to work every day, you're doing your thing, you know, you're too busy to be paying attention to all of this tomfoolery. And
also, so you're praying to God that you don't get sick because you don't have health insurance. And so
he's too busy to pay attention to what these fuckers are doing, let alone try and stop them.
Did you see the Michael Moore article about it all?
Nah, why he thinks Trump's going to get in?
Yeah,
I saw the headline, but I didn't read it.
I thought you shared the link. I thought I looked at the link through the link that you shared to me.
Well, it wasn't me, homie.
But anyway, he said that basically through kind of fear mongering and like the redneck America, Trump is very likely, in his opinion, going to be the next president, and also because Hillary is not a good alternative. Like, she's a much better alternative, but not a good alternative, and keeps doing things that kind of compromise her position. And like all the people that love Bernie Sanders, for example,
don't love Hillary,
such as us, and will give her the pity vote, but very unenthusiastically.
Yeah.
Whereas what she needs is that pity vote plus them all going, hey, you guys got to get in and convince 5 other people to vote for her.
Yeah.
And no one's going to do that because no one really believes in her.
But here's another sort of sign that the system is broken, right? George Bush Sr. he's the president.
Yeah.
Gives it to his son. You know, now admittedly it's not straight away, but you can't deny that there's no way that George Bush Jr., if he was not George Bush's son, he wouldn't have been the president. Well, he was the president because he had the connections and the money, and and his dad was pulling strings, and he had all of that hooked up already.
And should there even be just say an IQ test to become president? It's like, okay, congratulations, you can be a candidate, but you do have to pass the IQ test. I don't think he would have done that.
Yeah, well, you might be right, but what concerns me here is that he did not deserve the presidency based off his own merit. He got it through his connections. It was so obviously Daddy's friends that got him the job. And so essentially Daddy is still in charge. George Bush Sr. still had some say in what was going on there. Yeah. And then now we've got Bill Clinton was in, and now his wife Hillary is looking like, she could potentially, she's going to be she's the Democratic nominee, so she could be in, right? Again, it's like you should not be able to be related to the prior or to a previous president.
Not really.
Maybe like a cousin or something, sure, but like a very close relation, it doesn't make any sense. It's essentially, the whole idea, right, behind them only allowing 2 terms, right, is that there's a maximum of 8 years, and that's to avoid a dictator getting in and always having the power. But if you can just pass it to your son or your wife, well, that's 16 years. Yeah. And that is the same people with the power at the end of the day. Just because it's a different individual, it's the freaking wife of the ex-president. It's the freaking son of the ex-president. It doesn't make any sense. Hillary should not be allowed to be nominated. George Bush Jr. definitely shouldn't have been allowed to be nominated. You know, it doesn't make sense. So what next thing you know, Donald Trump's fucking son, after Donald Trump gets in, is going to inherit it. And, like, it is possible that through draconian laws you can minimize the effect that the media can have on the public, or, you know, manipulate the media and stuff like that, and you can create like a dictatorship under the name of democracy, kind of like what's happening in Turkey. Like, you can do that. You can use you know, because Germany was a democracy before Hitler.
Well, also, isn't technically Russia a democracy?
I think it is, yeah.
Technically
what
speaking.
is nowadays, yeah.
But it's not at all.
But I don't know, yeah.
From what
Russian politics is a little rusty.
Just with regards to Putin still being in, I believe that he went past his term and he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to stand down, sort of thing. And then he was like, you know what, I was going to stand down, but of course the people need me. Russia needs me, so I'm going to stand back up again.
Yeah. And then you can, if you're the president, you can use your influence to hold down in various ways your competition. You know, so you can, if you've cemented your power, you can hold down the competition kind of indefinitely. You know, and then at a certain point, you just make people disappear in the night. You know. Yeah.
Also, there's this whole thing where they say it's very close to how the Nixon the initial Nixon presidency, they feel like this Trump situation is very similar.
I am not a crook.
But yeah, I mean, it is a worry.
To that fucker Nixon, there's the war on drugs now. He was the one that launched that.
Right.
Started that initiative, the marketing campaign War on Drugs, and now like millions of people are dead as a result of his decisions. But there's probably enough politics for the beginning of the show, I guess. Unless you got something to end on there.
I had another thought, but it's gone. So
right,
yeah.
Well, look, thanks to Naomi Kebby. Moving on. Yeah. Naomi Kebby, long-time listener.
Yeah.
Thanks to her. She told me a few episodes back I need to watch more stuff.
Yeah.
So thanks to her,
I've taken her
advice, and I went and watched The Revenant.
Oh yeah, you said you were going to watch that.
Well, I did say I was going to watch that, so I watched that. It was quite painful, I thought, to watch.
Right. Too long.
Very long. Very slow, and that was okay. I didn't really mind the length, and you know, obviously the action was quite good.
That's what she said.
The gore was good. Yeah. That she being...
Well, she didn't really mind the length, and the action was good.
Oh, right.
But then you went south on the gore.
Yeah, and the gore was good. Yeah, well, so the big problem with The Revenant for me, without delving into spoilers and stuff like that, is just that it's essentially a story of a guy who is out in the wilderness and he's trying to get to civilization. And that's kind of what most of the film is about. But he's been wounded. All right, and so that's what most of the film was about. But like, it's set in a snowy, you know, landscape, freezing cold kind of thing. And I just, every time the whole way I was watching it, I was like, well, that scratch there, that would have killed him actually. You know, because you can't have, like, you know, the wounds he suffered were just pretty preposterous for surviving even in this day and age with really awesome medicine. So back in those days, like, one of those cuts that he received could be potentially enough to kill him with you know, infections and gangrene and all the rest of that stuff. And then not just that though, the cold, that would have been the real one. Like, these guys were like jumping into water and doing, and it's like, man, rule one when you go into the wild, stay the fuck out of the water. You know, because if you get wet, you get cold, and if you get cold, you get dead. And they were just, you know, it was just pretty preposterous how much he survived through. And so it was long, and it just kept on getting more and more ridiculous.
Yep. It certainly did get a bit ridiculous at times, but I enjoyed it. I liked it, but I also thought that, like, essentially I'm watching a guy crawling for 80% of a film. I need to see that. 10%, 15%, 20% can do crawling. I'm all for it. But 80%? Sorry, that's too much crawling in a film.
Well, that was the other thing too, was the sheer amount of distance he seemed to cover by crawling sometimes, you know? Like, he was going places, right? And it's like, for example, there was this one shot, he reaches like the top of a cliff, and it's overlooking this river, and it's kind of like, it's not the Grand Canyon, but it's a big canyon, and the river's like quite far down below, and he's very badly wounded and he's crawling around to get everywhere. And it was like, and then next thing you know, he's down by the water, and it was like, okay, no way did he crawl that far. It was just kind of the distances covered were pretty preposterous.
Well, even the whole bear attack itself.
Well, I wasn't going to say there was a bear attack. To be fair, I did know there was a bear attack, but only because of like internet spoilers and shit.
Well, like I said,
but if somebody had never seen it before,
we're well past like you are the last person to have seen the Revenant.
Yeah, but like I said, no spoilers, and now you've told them that somebody gets attacked by a bear. Now, that's not really a spoiler because it happens right at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
It's part of the setup, but still,
the injuries sustained in that bear attack, like he is like half mauled to death. But if you're half mauled to death, you are very close to death in a way that really you're probably going to die.
Yeah, well,
given the environmental situation.
Yeah, and the lack of medicine and all the rest of it, lack of proper treatment and all that stuff. So yeah, anyway, that's what I thought about that. But I also watched Fear the Walking Dead, episode 1.
Oh, did you?
I did. And it was actually all right.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. There was a little bit too much of the old, one of the things, again, no spoilers or anything like that, but one of the old classics. I mean, it is like you said, nobody said zombie at any point. Nobody goes, there's a fucking zombie,
Guys, we're living with zombies. We gotta start living our lives like there's zombies about.
But there was a bit too much kind of vague talk, like there's a kid who's like, no, she's like, what's wrong, little pimple faced boy? And he's like, oh no, there's safety in numbers. They come at night. They mostly come at night, mostly, or whatever he said, but it's always very vague. Like instead of saying, so I've seen some people attacking people and eating their faces, and I've started noticing them around, and I've noticed on the news some things happening, and I think there's some monsters attacking. He was very vague. He was like, oh yeah, they're covering it up. Covering what up? It's like, what are they covering up, little boy? And of course, the person he's talking to is the teacher, and the teacher's like, this little boy's crazy. Yeah. And it's like, in real life, you're about to fucking communicate. And that was a theme I found through the whole episode, was that characters were just really, really poorly communicating things to one another in order to continue people doing stupid shit in order for the show to move on and be action-packed. Yeah. But it just kind of came across as like poor writing, because it's like, well, no, you wouldn't be so vague about it. You'd say, this is what I saw, this is what I think happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's and look, that gets worse.
Well, I'm concerned about that.
It gets more obscure, but also just like even the arguments that they all have with each other.
Yeah,
they're just so stupid.
I imagine, I am going to watch episode 2.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised if it goes the way of The Walking Dead for me, where I just actually can't even watch it.
Well, that's the thing. The Walking Dead, like, obviously you haven't stuck around for that.
Yeah.
But that. Although
I watched season 2,
although at times is silly, it is much less like this is the silliest zombie TV show, that's going.
Right.
For sure, it's the silliness just gets higher and higher. And for me, this is a guy who loves zombies to the point of spending 5 years making a zombie film because he loves them so much. And I'm a very forgiving type of person, so I can buy into all of that. And there's still stuff where you're just like, nah, look, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I've got to check out now. But I'm still I'm watching it. Some TV is, you're kind of like, I know this is bad, but I'm committed now.
Yeah. I'm
just committed.
Well,
I'm committed to the bitter end. That's it. Either I die or the show dies, but one or the other, because I'm not going to stop watching. I'm just in now. It's like an abusive relationship. Because you're like, look,
you have an abusive relationship with The Walking Dead.
Yeah, because you're like, look, you remember all the good parts, and you go, well, look, they did some crazy stuff last time that really was excruciatingly painful and hurt me in many ways. But I'll give them another shot. I know they're not really like that. They wouldn't do it to me again, would they? No, they would never do it to me again. They do it to you again.
That's the same as it was with The Strain. I watched both seasons of The Strain.
It was very like that.
And it was fucking painful sometimes, but I just couldn't, I had to see it through. I think I went back, in more recent times, I said I'd give Walking Dead another go, the original Walking Dead, and I think I just watched the first episode of season 3.
Right.
I think maybe even the first 2. But anyway, no, I think what happened, I watched the first episode and I was like, it was pretty bad, but I'll have another go. But episode 2 of season 3, I smoked a doobie beforehand. You know, I was like, we'll make this work. Even with the help of drugs, I could not make it enjoyable. I was like, you know what? I finished the episode, but I was like, I cannot continue this because they're so fucking annoying, and the way they interact with each other is just so unrealistic, and the way they're handling everything is just so dumb that these guys would have been the first people to be killed. When the zombie holocaust happened, they would have been the first people to go, and only the real smart, ruthless people would be the ones still around.
Well, are you sure you're not on season 2?
No. I'm pretty sure I watched all of season 2 in Mexico, and then watched... More recently, I started season 3.
Because for me, season 3...
But I might have just watched the first or two segments.
As it really gets a whole lot better.
Well, what's the one where they're wandering around in the bush and the little boy gets shot by someone while they're hunting?
Unfortunately, that could be a lot of episodes.
What's that one where they're walking in the bush and the little boy gets shot while they're hunting? Oh, he does that all the time. He does that most seasons.
So that is actually could sum up a couple of things, but... so I'm not 100% sure, but for me, you know, like season 3 and season 4 had a real upward trajectory,
right? And
even maybe I can't remember if I'm 5 or 6, but in the last season, you know, it went off the edge again into the silliness.
I also am watching season 2 of Fargo, which is really awesome. I'm up to like episode 4 or something like that, and it's really awesome. If season 1 was really good, but season 2 so far seems even better to me.
Okay.
So highly recommend go check out Fargo if you haven't watched that yet.
Yeah. See, this is the problem now with TV. I'm trapped by my TV shows that I've already committed to. So there's all these TV shows that I'm like, yeah, I like that. I watched that. I've seen a season of that, or I've seen 2 seasons of that. So now I have to keep watching, and then like another great. And this is the thing. There was definitely a period of time, I feel like maybe even 3 years ago, where you could just stay on top of all the good TV. Like you could just pretty much catch all the must-see TV, like all the shows people talked about. You're like, yeah, I'm watching that, you know. But now there's just so much good TV that you actually have to say, fuck. I cannot watch I cannot watch the must-see TV anymore because there's too much of it. And also, then you kind of start feeling guilty that, you know what, like I kind of feel bad that I haven't seen Fargo. I've heard it's really good from a lot of people. There's a lot of shows like that. And
it's not very often that Harley Neville recommends something to watch.
Exactly. It's too much. It's too much. It's because all the movies have started sucking, so, you know, everyone's gone to TV. It makes perfect sense, but it's not good because a movie is a very finite, quick period of time. You don't know how long these shows could go for, you know? You have no idea.
You might get 10 seasons.
Exactly, and then you're going to be in trouble.
Now, speaking of movies, Aaron Falvey bought I Survived a Zombie Holocaust. I'm delivering it to him tonight in person, and thanks a lot to him. So that's his Facebook page is Falvation Films. That's like salvation with an F. Falvation Films. So go and check him out if you want to support somebody that's supporting us.
Thank you.
So he bought the DVD, and yeah, thank you very much for that. And if you guys would like a personalized signed copy of I Survived a Zombie Holocaust, you can do that by going on facebook.com/ISAZH. That's I Survived a Zombie Holocaust. ISAZH, and you will see a button there saying buy personalized DVD. Do it.
Also, if you want to, just going back to the fall of civilization, if you want to witness the fall of civilization, become an Uber driver.
Right.
Because, you know, nothing's made me feel more older and more out of touch than becoming an Uber driver.
See, I was thinking about you Uber driving the other day. As I was getting dropped off by an Uber, I was like, well, you know what? This might actually be a really cool lifestyle, cruising around on a Saturday night or a Friday night and like being part of the city, you know, and being involved. And you must meet so many new and interesting people. And sure, some of them will be boring or some of them will be dickheads, but you know, you must still meet interesting, cool people. And then you must just see things, like you see like fucking drunk girls in miniskirts falling over and douchebags having fights and stuff, so you're seeing stuff which might inspire writing in you.
Yeah, look, if the pay wasn't so fucking terrible, it would be quite good. And it is interesting, I will say that. There's been really a night where I would have said I've been bored doing what I've been doing. But, just to put it in a bit of perspective, like with the Uber driving, so you pick up, like, this is the thing now, I pick up these young girls that are going out to town, and all they're doing is documenting shit on their phone. Quick Snapchat here, quick this there, recording it, then they'll record it, then they'll play it back, then they'll look at it, then they'll film another something. Like, they're Snapchatting, oh, here's our Uber driver, Snapchatting me, just driving, because that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's fucking weird. It is really weird for someone like a generation past that, who like cell phones and all that stuff didn't come to me till I was that age. And even then, like, not the way that it is now, not with the level of interactivity. Cell phones used to be able to send texts, and like it was black and white, and it was very limited.
You had to press the buttons.
Yeah, and they had buttons. Remember buttons on cell phones? So all of that stuff. So kind of to go, like, to like sort of see this window into what people are like. It's fucking weird and it's crazy, and I don't understand it. I guess it's that fame thing. It's just like all the attention all the time. Let's get attention. This is how we do it, by documenting our lives, and whereas, before it was like, how do I get attention? I know, I'll develop a skill,
I'll develop my personality.
A really unique and exceptional skill, and people will recognize me for that.
Yeah, but the thing is, you still need to, because for all of these girls, every car of young girls you pick up that is, Snapchatting and all the rest of it, there's another car doing the same shit. There's thousands of them, so you still need to develop an exceptional skill to stand out online.
Yes, to stand out, like, to be like have millions of views for sure, but for them I don't think they need that. I think they just need the couple hundy, and that couple hundy is their friend circle plus a few more people that like perving at them online. So really I think they're kind of achieving their goal in a really detrimental way, of this kind of fake plastic bubble, here's my existence thing, that they find really validating, which is really completely meaningless and kind of stupid. But that's them. And like, in fact, I read an article about it, and this girl was like, yeah, if I don't hit however many likes on Instagram, I'll feel like I've failed. Like, that's a big fail for me, like that's really shitty. I know my friends aren't really supporting me if I don't get this many likes. And it's like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
The likes on a app on a phone?
Yeah.
That kind of thing is actually a little worrying to me, and I just wonder if this is like, essentially it's one of two things. It's either like, I'm right and this isn't very good for people,
or you're an old fuck,
or I'm an old fuck who's completely past it. As in time moves past everyone, and their era is their era, and then there's a new era which they don't understand and go, back in my day.
I hate to break it to you, Guy, but I'm pretty sure it's the latter. I don't think that them posting the Snapchats and all, I don't think it's going to be too big a deal for the advancement of civilization. I think they'll still grow up to be normal functioning adults. I don't think it's going to be, that bad. I think it's much the same as when TVs came into homes and the parents were like, well, the kids, they used to go outside and look, they're watching the TVs and look at the video games, and like it is it's tradition. You are just,
Sure.
Your mum just passed you the baton.
Yep.
And now you're taking it. And you're going to pass it to your kids.
Yeah, I guess so. But I still feel like there's just like, when I was a kid, I was not thinking about these types of things. Like, these types of things were not occupying my mind. And I'm just not sure that it's not so much what the technology or anything. It's just like what occupies a mind and like drives it forward.
But for me, I mean, like my mind was occupied by girls, looking cool, skateboarding, video games. Like as a teenager, these were the things that I thought about and thought were interesting, and that was the stuff that you and I used to talk about, girls and skateboarding and video games. And I don't know that any of that stuff is necessarily any more productive than creating short videos on your phone and stuff. One thing I will say
but that's kind of like us as 16-year-olds, right? As opposed to us as 19 to early 20-year-olds.
Okay, well, 19 to early 20-year-olds, I was still interested a lot in skateboarding, women, and to a lesser extent, but still video games.
Just to a slightly lesser extent, the video games. That would be the evolution by that stage.
Well, right. So the thing is, though, that I do think that there might be something about the way that people interact with each other could suffer a little bit when so much of it is online. When you're sitting in the car next to a person, but instead of having a laugh and a conversation and talking about what you're going to do when you reach town, you're Snapchatting and talking about Snapchatting, and you're talking about this funny photo. Check out this photo I just took, and haha, and look, Ricky hit like, well, yay, as opposed to being like, wow, check out that homeless guy out the window, oh, check out this out the window. They're not interacting with the real world quite in such a direct way as we would have been, because they're interacting with the real world through the filter of their phone,
and then through the filter of how they present themselves through their phone. So I guess that is more to my point of what I think it could be a little bit bad about it.
Imagine being the parent of a teenage girl. I reckon that would be pretty hellish nowadays with cell phones, because teenagers are already that way anyway. Like, they often just kind of ignore their parents and stuff like that and do their own thing. But it would be even easier for them to just completely ignore you when they've got their phone with them, and they can just stare at their phone the whole time. And like my little brother came to poetry night, and I didn't hit him up about it because, I'm cool. I'm the cool little brother. But he was like just playing a game on his phone like the entire night, sitting there, instead of interacting with the real world.
Don't you think that's a little rude, young man?
That's what I could have said, yes. And Angie reckons she saw some people kind of glaring at him, because the poet is up performing, and he's like looking down at his phone and the screen's bright.
He don't give a fuck.
But he doesn't give a fuck. Well, he also probably didn't realise that, the etiquette.
But that's what I'm saying. He didn't realise the etiquette. Because, as you said, he doesn't know how to interact socially in the real world environment. So, he doesn't understand that there's a time where, and maybe in the future it won't be rude. Like, we're all just having a conversation, and someone just pulls out a phone and just starts doing something different, and you're like, I
was actually talking.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. I'll get out my phone now too.
I do kind of think that will happen, and that will be detrimental if people can't sit and have an entire conversation without whipping out their phone and that not being considered rude. But that will be a problem. Also, I used to tell Angie off all the time when I first met Angie. She used to do that to me sometimes. Like, we're literally talking about something, and then she'd whip out her phone. And I was like, "Is this a generational thing?" She's like 5 years younger than me. I was like, "Is this a generational thing? Is it a cultural thing, or is she just really rude?
Or is she just really bored by all my stories about myself?
Or is she just really bored?" Yeah.
But that's the thing. I think that, like, if you are living through this filter as well, so like 90% of your life is through this filter, and then suddenly it's like, you have to go to a job interview where that filter is not accessible. You can't present yourself through that filter. You have to meet new people that will engage with you to collaborate on something. Just any kind of like that kind of thing. Suddenly you're so out of your depth. You're stressing the fuck out. You just don't know. You can't be like, oh, lol, like emoticon, smiley face to that, man. They'll be like, what? What are you talking about? Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll be like, emoticon back to you, smiley face, thumbs up.
You're hired.
I reciprocate your emoticon, and I give you the what's that sign with this one? What's that called?
Okay.
The OK sign, the circle with the with the three fingers up.
Yeah.
I give you that back.
Yeah.
You're hired.
Well, they might do that. The thing is that
We just don't know.
Well, just like if you look at our generation compared to our parents, right? Our parents' generation, no tattoos in the workplace, uniforms, being very well dressed in the workplace. That was all a very normal thing. Nowadays, like I've noticed it in my career from when I started when I was 20 to now being 33, more millennials have taken over positions of authority that were filled by baby boomers when I first started. And now, as a result, all workplaces I've been to lately have been so much more relaxed. Like you wear whatever you want. It's okay if you have tattoos. Nobody gives a shit. Just do your fucking job. And that's a result of our generation coming in and taking over and having that power and being much more liberal. And so it makes sense that as this next generation comes through, the whole phone thing is just going to be ubiquitous. But the thing is, the technology will change, and a phone will end up not being something you physically hold. I don't think it's going to be something that is just kind of like Google Glass, but that type of thing. But maybe not, so you don't have to look like a fucking dork wearing spectacles. But like something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I have been definitely feeling my age out on those Uber drives, and just kind of listening into their conversations.
Speaking of Uber, you're single now.
Yep.
And I kind of have a theory that at some point, some sexy drunk girls are going to be like, hey, so why don't you come inside, Uber driver that's not Indian? Because that is your point of difference out there.
Oh, yeah. And so many people have remarked on it. They're going, holy shit. Like they've almost leapt out of their seat in shock. You're not an Indian, you're a white guy. Are you the only white Uber driver? And I'm like, well, that's kind of the niche I'm trying to fill.
Well, so I reckon that sometimes some sexy girl or girls are going to be needing an Uber home, and then they're going to start flirting with you and hitting on you, and then being like, well, why don't you just come inside? And then you'll have a very tough professional decision to make.
Not really, because as soon as Not really, because as soon as I hit go offline, I'm no longer an Uber driver. I'm just a regular guy.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes is just one little hit of the app and I'm out of it. But just in terms of we're talking about how shitty Uber was, I think I made more like $17 an hour last week.
Sweet.
But I will give you an example. So I drove to the airport in rush hour traffic, right? Which took me 2 hours to go there and back. It was only a one-way trip. I was only dropping someone off.
Yeah.
So I drove someone in town at 5:15. I got back into town at 7 p.m. I made $35.
Yeah.
Now divide that by 2, take off 20% tax, and however much petrol I spent, plus 2 fucking hours.
Yeah.
And it's not great.
Surely... Do people not Uber from the airport as well? Like, could you have hung around for a little bit and waited for
I could have hung around. That's technically illegal. You're not meant to stay at the airport.
Yeah.
You can be in the vicinity of the airport. You do have to pay...
Well, that's kind of what I mean.
Yeah, you do have to pay an airport charge as well. It's a little bit tricky because, but it's certainly possible, but I had to get back from my other work where I would have made much more money had I not spent that 2 hours doing that. But that's the other thing too, is Uber assigns you if you're close to the person, right? So it's like whoever's closest to the person. And you go, okay, well, I guess I'm closest to the person. It's going to take me a 25-minute drive to get there, and then they're going to drive for 5 minutes. And that's also happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's like that, again, that's great for the rider, He gets someone who's driven from town out to the North Shore to give him a ride a couple of blocks down to his mate's place. That's fantastic for him. But for me, that damage both to my hourly rate and petrol consumption is horrific. And, Uber don't give a fuck.
Well, now that you're single...
Yeah.
Does this mean our old favourite segment, the Tinder Files,
the Tinder Files
come back?
will have to make a return for sure.
You have to get back on there?
The Tinder Files will be making a return at some point for sure. At the moment, I'm just a little bit busy to have...
Too busy for the bitches.
Too busy for a life, too busy to have sex, too busy to do anything that does not involve working at the moment because I'm saving up bond money and rent money for my new flat. And also then kind of a whole bunch of other kind of filmmaking style bills that built up on top of that. So I can't, in the foreseeable future, the next month is going to be me working as hard as an Indian man. Basically.
Right. Yeah. Got it. Makes sense. Now, my poem Gravity got shared on the Richard Dawkins page on Facebook. It's a big deal. He's got 600,000 likes on the page, and it led to 30,000 views on the video basically overnight, and a whole bunch of followers and messages to me and all that type of thing. And I did get some pretty positive feedback on it as well from a few people.
But no direct tweet from Richard Dawkins.
No direct tweet. I tweeted at Adam. That's the thing. Richard Dawkins doesn't run the Richard Dawkins Facebook page. No. So even though it's possible he could have seen it,
most likely,
he probably didn't.
Yeah.
And if he did see it, he would have seen it was uploaded to Facebook. So you can't even tweet that anyway.
Right.
You need the YouTube link. So I tweeted the YouTube link at him, but of course he didn't reply. I've tweeted it at him like 5 times. But anyway, I did have quite a lot of positive feedback, and I even had people messaging me and stuff like that. One guy, Ethan Hunt, he said, "G'day, mate." He's Australian. "I'm showing everyone. I'm one step short of showing strangers on the street. I sent it to a few atheist podcasts. They may have already seen it. I might have to lose this accent soon, because I don't know how to do it." I showed the family, the kids. They turned to me with a gasp and said, "Look, oh my God, Dad, he says exactly what you do, only he's smarter." I'll take a small victory when I can get it. Happy customer there.
Yep.
So that was kind of cool. And speaking of Dawkins, the new guy at my work, who's like 18, has not heard of Richard Dawkins or Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Well,
I was mortified.
Well, I imagine you flipped your wig. You had a fit. You had to show him 2 hours worth of YouTube clips all at once just to update him.
Yeah.
But also, that is another thing with the younger people. There definitely used to be a lot more respect for history.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that we're super respectful, but I mean like a genuine interest in the lives of past people and what they did. And I really think that is one thing that's gone. I've heard, I know notable stories about sort of like a lot of people just not knowing who filmmakers are and all that stuff, which is not that unusual, but within the filmmaking world of them just being like, who the fuck is this guy? I don't know. Why should I give a shit? And I think, again, if I didn't know someone, I would definitely be have a kind of an interest in being like, oh, I haven't heard of him. Why haven't I heard of him? Oh, I better kind of look into it. And I definitely think that people now are like, fuck off with your shit. Fuck off with your old shit and old people.
Maybe.
That's definitely an impression I've got.
Right.
For, just in terms of quite noticeable historical figures.
Yeah.
Really quite notable.
Well,
I would say Richard Dawkins is really quite notable.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, Richard Dawkins was around when I was 18, and I had not heard of him.
But he's been, but he
has blown up a lot more.
Yeah,
in the last
I think
10 years
that
or so.
In your sort of mid-20s was the apex of his.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, we've had quite a lot of positive feedback, so I've got a couple more bits of listener feedback here. So this is an endorsement from Paulette Edzer. She directed the film Internationum, which is being shot here in Auckland, so go find them on Facebook, Internationum, also known as Necronomicon.
Yep.
I have had the privilege of working with Harley. He is a great actor who flows on set with great timing and delivery and nice expressions. Guy I met briefly in a social capacity. They both strike me as hardworking, ethical guys who are passionate and creative as well as talented. They made a film. The name kind of bites, however, but the movie does not and is worth watching. Please check out Pigville Productions and I Survived a Zombie Holocaust.
Thank you very much.
So thanks for that, Paulette. And I got another one here from Tracy X. This was commented on our skit Not Wanking, which you can find on YouTube by searching Pigville. Not Wanking. So she commented, Harley, you are the sexiest man alive. Love your chest and back hair. Handsome with a manly beard. Nice. It's not normally a woman.
No, it's normally a dude.
You get a few comments like that, but they're normally from men.
I will say the great thing about technology now
is you can just pretend you're a woman when you're actually a man.
Well, but more like you can, like, I think at one point in history, not too long ago, you would have felt like a real social outcast, like a real disgusting, hairy, like just completely, you see all the stuff on TV, like, 80s, 90s, these completely hairless guys there, here's you, this fucking gorilla man, and you'd be like, there's nothing for me.
Yeah.
But
now there's a sense of community.
I'm repulsive just to everyone. I know that. I know the genuine standards for being attractive, and I do not meet any of them because I'm so hairy. And now what you find...
That is how I did feel
exactly,
back before the internet.
Exactly. And now the internet has shown you, actually, no, there's this huge subset of people that love that.
Yeah. Well, that's... I will tell you the truth.
And that emboldens you to go, now I don't have to live in shame and fear. I can put a half-hairy... I'm sure there was a period of time when you would have never considered putting a half-hairy, half-not hairy on the...
I don't really... Well, maybe when I was like a teenager, but that's kind of a different time now. But, in our early 20s, I was just as ashamed of my hair as I was in my teen years, but I bit the bullet and I
swallowed it all into a tiny bowl, pushed it deep down into your stomach.
No, I filmed videos with you where I was being all hairy on camera.
Yep.
I didn't want to do it, but I manned up. I was ashamed of my body. But yeah, look, the gay followers, they truly have helped me with my self-esteem with regards to my hairy shoulders and back and stuff, because, it's like, there are people out there that like it.
Hey, this is okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be me.
It's okay to be hairy. Now, James Russell, on YouTube, his name is Video James NZ. So, Video James NZ, go find him because he's been supporting us a lot. He's gone through, he's watching all the old podcasts on YouTube. He's gone right through the back catalogue.
Good
he's
on you,
commenting
James.
and he's thumbing up and all that stuff. So, he goes, I don't want to come across as an obsessed weirdo.
Don't worry.
I'm just saying I admire the fighting that you and Guy do. The example you set, that recognition isn't just going to fall on your lap while you're sitting on your chuff. Life is one big grind in the world of creativity, or even just in general, and only a few get that. I get that too. That's why I'm so passionate about seeing you guys get your stuff out there. I one day hope to do the same, and I know it ain't easy. New Zealand films need more support. I love listening to the Guy and Harley podcast while playing Fallout 4.
Yeah. Now, that's two good things to do at the same time. That's a pretty cool combo.
Yeah.
Respect that, James. That's very nice of you to say. Well, that's the thing. I thought, when I started, I didn't really think it was going to be a fight.
Yeah. Just going to make some shit, put it out.
People are going to love us.
I'll write a script. Somebody will pay for it.
End of story. We'll be incredibly rich and successful. And then
Rich and famous by 25 was what we used to genuinely believe with all our heart.
Yeah.
Rich and famous by 25. And I believed it. At 20, I was like, 25 is so fucking far away. Of course we'll be rich and famous by 25. If we start now, if we've been making films since we were 17,
come on, do the maths.
Do the maths.
Well, that's... But, that wasn't to be.
No.
And also, I think, obviously, that was completely unrealistic. And also, whenever you know about someone being successful, there's one of two things. You don't know the story of how they got there, which was probably incredibly painful and difficult. Or two, if they have kind of just come out of nowhere, they're an outlier, They are a total outlier, and that's why their story is being documented. Because they're an outlier, and because it's interesting. But then we all latch on to those stories and go, yeah, man, so this guy just wrote a script, he sold it for $1 million, it became this amazing film, and he's got this amazing career now, And you go, yeah, he did, but 100,000 people did the same thing and they didn't.
Yeah.
But we don't know about those people.
We don't hear about them because no one gives a fuck.
But Louis C.K.
Apart from the 50 listeners to their podcast.
Yeah. So Louis C.K., the comedian who has had this kind of career where he's been a comedian since he was like 20. He's now like 47 or something like that. He has just became, like, in the last probably 5 years, super famous, and he's reached the top of the sort of the comedy thing.
Well, he had to get George Carlin out of the way first.
He had to kill him.
Had to kill off George Carlin in order to make that work.
They do have some kind of similarities and differences.
They're definitely very cynical sort of sense of humor and
Yeah.
stuff. And he even, I watched a thing about him because he did a performance in honor of George Carlin when George Carlin died, and he said something about how inspired he was by George Carlin and how it wasn't really until after George Carlin was gone that he became sort of the new George Carlin.
Also, realistically speaking, there are very few comedians that don't love George Carlin.
Yeah.
Like, there are very few comedians that don't love or at least highly respect him as a comedian. He is legendary. But he said, like, he was on a podcast with Mark Maron, which I listened to, and he said something that really struck a chord with me. And he was like, for people like trying to make it, he's like, why shouldn't getting successful take years and years and years and years? After a decade, people are complaining about not finding success. It's like, yeah, of course you're not successful. It's going to take another decade. It's going to take another 2. Like, it's like, it is this thing that you just have to keep doing and doing and doing and getting better and better at. But it's, a decade is not a long time to be trying to get to the top of this incredibly high mountain, which also has an incredibly limited number of seats at the top of it. So, that I was like, yeah, it should take years. That's good.
I'm not behind schedule. I'm right on time.
I'm not ridiculously behind where I want to be. It's just taking as long as it should.
Yeah.
That gave me one glimmer of hope for about 3 to 4 seconds there. For that day. In the other 365 where I'm in a pit of despair.
So don't let that put you off, James. Don't let the fact that you've got 30 years ahead of you put you off. Don't worry about that.
I do think that sometimes, like, if someone had gone to me at like 19, they're like, I'm just going to show you, we're going to play for you.
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Essentially, like, or
Christmas future.
Filmmaking future. I'm going to play you a highlight of the things that you're going to do and see and think up until this age now that I am, 33. Just watch it. See what you think. See if you want to take that path. I'm pretty sure if I just watched it and watched those key highlights, and what I mean by highlights is...
You mean bad highlights?
Because
it would depend on the cut. It could be you at the red carpet. It could be you on the mowers. It could be you in Australia, in LA, in Barcelona with your film that you created.
That's what I'm saying. They'd say, look, we're not going to sugarcoat it, but we're not going to exclude the cool things. We'll show you all the cool things, and we'll show you all the bad things, and we'll kind of give you a baseline of time that it's all going to take. What do you think? I'm pretty sure definitely at 19, I would have gone, oh, fuck that.
Fuck that.
Fuck that shit. But you can't be.
But what would you be?
Well, now...
Yeah.
I probably would be exactly the same and just have nothing.
Yeah, but like you'd just be working some shitty job.
Actually, I think realistically, I would have gone into like some kind of more specific writing, like journalism. So I think it would be very highly likely that
I'd be a highly successful reporter.
Well, not maybe reporter,
journalist,
but more just probably I'd be writing snarky, bitter reviews about movies that I wish I'd made.
Yeah,
I think that would be very realistic.
I survived a zombie holocaust.
1 star.
1 star.
1 star. Yeah, I think that could definitely have been my future, but I'm glad it's not.
Speaking of stand-up comedy, I forgot to mention that I performed stand-up comedy the other week.
Did you bring the house down?
Yeah, it went pretty well. Like, it was a really small crowd, and but it did go well. It was a venue I'd never done it at before, and I haven't done comedy for more than 2 years, and I've only done it a handful of times. But it went really well. It was fine.
Were you as nervous as you were the other times?
Nah, because I got way more stage experience now because of the poetry, so I just played it cool, just rolled up.
You weren't as like anxiety-ridden and distressed.
No.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. That's evolution.
Yeah, for sure. It went well, and I could definitely do it again, and I probably should do it again this time at the Classic, which is a much bigger venue. But the thing is that it's just it was fun and it was cool, but my heart's not really passionate about stand-up comedy, so it's cool.
You don't really care to make people laugh in that arena.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess
Like
not.
you're
but-
not getting a big buzz.
Yeah, but I will do it again, and it is a great sort of string to my bow.
Well, you know what they say. If your heart's not in something, just keep doing it.
Keep doing it for 20 years.
Not quite as well as it could be done. If you cared more.
Do you remember back in the day when we used to drink on the podcast? Those were the days.
Yeah.
Those were the days. Now I'm doing Dry July. I have raised $142
That's
from
good.
8 sponsors.
That's good.
Now I haven't really been pushing it because I'm constantly asking the internet for money anyway, and I'm pushing my t-shirts and stuff at the same time as well.
Yeah.
So I've shared it. But
what would you
haven't-
rather someone do? Buy a t-shirt or support you in Dry July?
Buy a t-shirt. So if you're listening out there and you've got $20 and you're deciding what to do with it,
Yeah, there's your answer.
go and buy one of my t-shirts or buy I Survived the Zombie Holocaust personalized signed copy. But if you're not going to do either of those things, then go to Dry July and search dryjulynz.com, I think it is, and go search for Harley Neville. Otherwise, it will be on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Guy and Harley. There's only a week or so left of Dry July. All the money goes to supporting adults living with cancer. So it's not a cure for cancer, it's making the lives of people with cancer more comfortable. So
It's not supporting a cure for cancer because that has already been made and is being concealed by the giant drug
Pharmaceutical
corporations.
companies.
Yeah. And the government.
well, it's just weed, isn't it? You just smoke weed to cure cancer, isn't that what I heard? I don't think that's true. What do you got?
Well, I've got a couple of things.
Okay, you better get on to them because
Yeah,
I need
'cause you gotta
to
go.
soon.
Yeah, and I've got to go because I got fucking work again. But yeah, so a couple of things. I went to my first independent wrestling show, which is actually my first ever wrestling show. I've never been to a live wrestling show before. I've only watched it on the television. And it was really quite interesting. I'm continuing my pro wrestling training, which I'm sure everyone is on the edge of their seat to hear
Waiting
about.
to hear more about.
More updates about. I learnt what's known as a sequence. So in wrestling, you'll have a sequence of 3 or 4 moves strung together.
I thought they were shiny things that you put on your dress. But moving on.
That's what you wear on your wrestling tights.
Yeah.
But and then of course it's just like everything. Once you taught that sequence, you see that sequence in a whole bunch of wrestling matches. But it's quite interesting because then it's like, okay, how does that transition to the next sequence and the next sequence? And, obviously learning all those sequences can be applied in any variety to make a match different to what it was. But yeah, so I saw my first live event. It was really quite good. Like, I think the thing that makes the IPW, which is Impact Pro Wrestling, I believe it stands
I
for.
thought it would have been Independent Pro Wrestling. But Impact makes more sense.
I think it's
probably
Impact.
a brand.
Yeah. I think it's Impact. Anyway,
City Impact is a church.
yeah, it was like what was cool is they had like a big projector screen which played everyone's opening thing, which is like they have in the WWE. They had an entrance thing where they all came through and they had lights. So it was presented as super professional and way better looking than like most independent wrestling events look like shit. All the lights are on. Everything looks cheap. And it looks quite awful, whereas they've got this sound system set up was in this quite I guess expensive school gymnasium. It's seated probably about 150 people, and it just looked awesome, and it was cool to be part of. And I filmed a couple of matches for them, which was much more difficult than I thought it would be. There was no, and I almost got taken out as they were doing a spot off the top rope when I was trying to film it, and the guy was like, "Yeah, you might want to get out the way, mate," and shoved me out the way. Just as 2 people dived over the rope onto them. It was good. But I guess what you realize is you're like, damn, there's really, as a director, you want to go, hey, I didn't quite catch that. Could you just repeat that again, please? 5 more times? And you can't. It's just capturing all the live stuff is really quite difficult for someone who thinks completely in the opposite way about filmmaking, where you compose a shot, you do it, you refine it, you do it again, and that's how you do it, to have everything, just try and catch everything all at once. I found it very challenging. But if you want to go to an Impact Wrestling show, they're having another one in 3 weeks called Rival Turf. I think it's at the Linfield Leisure Centre. And tickets are online on their website, which is, if you just type in IPW on Facebook or IPW, Google it, IPW Wrestling, you'll find all the details there, and I'll be there filming.
So go and say hello.
Come say hello to me.
Go and get a selfie with him. The Guy Pigden.
Well, I think they'll be...
of I Survived a Zombie Holocaust.
Yeah. But yeah, it was pretty good. I'll also say, going back to TV shows, we talked about it being the, the golden age and too much must-see TV, except in New Zealand. Except in New Zealand, where it's must-not-see TV. We seem to be specialising in must-not-see TV. We seem to be making everything that we possibly can that no one really wants and is kind of old and kind of redundant. And
well, are you suggesting that The Block, Boys vs. Girls, is not must-watch TV?
I am suggesting that, but I'm also saying it goes much deeper than the shitty reality TV we do. The shitty knockoff reality TV of, we don't even invent our own... Just think about this. We don't really invent our own reality TV shows. We buy reality TV shows from overseas and make shittier, cheaper versions with a much lower talent pool.
We did start one of the big ones, though.
The My Pop Star one, right?
Yeah, I think it was, the Pop Star, essentially American Idol before American Idol. And we sold that concept
to Britain, I think.
Right.
And then that morphed into American Idol. But I also
I think we might have been involved with Survivor, or the concept of a Castaway, of a Treasure Island Castaway thing as well. I think we were pretty early on that one too.
I'm pretty sure we ripped that off, the Treasure Island.
Yeah.
Because it came out in the UK first.
Yeah.
But I will say, I bet that we sold those rights for really fuck all. We'll give you $50,000 for those. And they're like, yes, $50,000 sounds great. We're from New Zealand.
6 times our budget.
Yeah. And then, of course, they probably sold a variation of that concept for $50 million to the US, or through Simon Cowell, who probably bought it off us for $50,000. But anyway, so we don't make good television over here as a general rule. We make bad television, but it's also the bafflingness of why we do it. And there was this article now, Filthy Rich, which I think we've mentioned briefly in a previous episode.
Yeah.
So
a big budget New Zealand drama that was critically panned when it came out, and New Zealand's most expensive TV series ever made. Critically
panned and commercially marginalized. So, they went from having, a huge amount of viewers the first week. It completely dropped off until the end. They were at about a third of the amount of people that were watching it. So within 20 episodes, they'd lost 2/3 of their audience. 2/3 of their audience. Okay. Now, most expensive drama series ever. So critics hated it. The feedback on those, there was very few. There was not really anyone sticking up for in the comments thread. They're like, yeah, I'm so sick of this shitty New Zealand television. Why can't we do anything good? Why can't we do anything new? Where's our Game of Thrones? Where's our innovative stuff? Why are we making old shit with old people? Okay, that was the question that was posed by the public as well as the critics. So what do? We fund season 2
for $7 million.
For $7 million and for less episodes. So it's now, the last one was 20 episodes. This one's going to be 14 episodes, which actually means that the budget has gone up per episode by 16%. Okay, so they've given everyone a raise.
Yeah.
They're like, congratulations, guys. You made a shitty show that everyone uniformly hates and is widely regarded as completely outdated. We'll reward you with season 2 and a raise.
I do.
Because we're TVNZ.
I do hope I get cast in it, though. Get an audition.
Oh, look, don't get me wrong. Of course, if we got the opportunity to be in it, we would be.
Hey, don't paint me with your brush. There's no we. I'm distancing myself from these negative comments just in case I get an audition. I can't have this podcast coming back to haunt me if I get cast.
I just think that it's mind-boggling, and this is why we are so far behind the rest of the world.
It does seem like New Zealand television is just so
archaic.
Inauthentic. It's always either trying really hard to not be Kiwi, or it's trying too hard to be Kiwi. You know, when really the place that it's shot should just be irrelevant. It should be just telling a story, and you don't need to cram in Kiwi jokes and idioms and
fucking
shit like that
Kiwi idioms. Jesus Christ, have we had enough of those?
Don't chuck them in there. Just tell the story and do a good job of it, and it's irrelevant where it is. But the fact that it's Kiwi shouldn't be a central kind of theme that you always come back to. And it's like, as Kiwis, I don't know. I mean, I personally, when I see that sort of shit, it's like, either they're trying too hard to not be Kiwi, or they're trying too hard to cram all this Kiwi shit that I actually don't really relate to down my throat.
Yeah. Well, I just think that it's very deflating for people that are writing original content, and they're no doubt, because also I'll just add that one show is taking up 45% of the broadcast budget that's allocated yearly for shows.
Right.
45% is taken up on a dud that everyone hates.
And you know why? It's because the producers and the people applying, they are the guys that really pull the strings.
Yep.
And it's like they have friends down at the funding bodies. Yep. It's the same old shit. It's always the same shit. So the same rich people who have already got all the funding in the past, who have been doing that job for 30 years, are just continuing to get more funding because they're all set up, and and so that's the problem. Essentially it's corruption again.
It is corruption. It is to a degree corruption, for sure. And I think, but this is just such a blatant, flagrant, example of it that's so glaring that you're just blinded by it. You're just like, wait, what? Like, how in the sweet fuck can this be? Can this be a thing? So I just hate to think of like the people that have pitched sort of, I guess, for that 45%, there was 3 or 4 other shows that were pitched, that were tabled, and they're like, nah, we'll just do season 2 of this terrible show everyone hates. Why? Because we can. No one's going to tell us we can't. We just do it. And we like the producers. They produce for us before on other television. But it's a real shame. Hopefully, we get an opportunity to make something a little bit different, a little bit interesting. We will be pitching for that next month if we can get our submission material together.
Yeah, there's an exciting new funding application coming out that we're going to keep it secret so nobody else listens, nobody else applies.
No one else applies with better ideas.
But we've found one. We've found a gem that we're really well suited to that I don't think is going to get a huge amount of applications. We're really well suited to it, and a lot of the work has already been done for a previous application for a different funding that we didn't get.
Also, a lot of the work has been done through 10 or however many years we've been making content for YouTube. Like the work has been done in like over a decade long stretch just through what we normally work on.
Now when we apply, I'm going to make sure I go through beforehand and change the names of all of the videos.
Please do that.
Sensible things.
As
opposed to hairy man caught wanking and stuff like that. Slutty drunk tranny. I've already changed the name of that one. But look, I've got to go because it is 10 to 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night. I want to be down at the Thirsty Dog to put my name on the list because for the open mic night, poetry night, because tonight the poet that I've been stalking for ages, Tourette's aka Dominic Hoey, is headlining at this open mic. He's like the feature poet in the middle. Before the 2 open mic sets, there's a feature poet.
Is your chance to finally impress him enough that he wants to associate with you and finally acknowledge your existence.
That's it. That's exactly it.
This is your shot, Nebs.
Now, that's really important that I get there early so that I can put my name where I want it. And now where I want it I want to put my name immediately prior to his performance. So I'm the last of the open mic in the first set, because that way, because he probably won't show up straight away.
No.
So, if I'm first, he's probably going to miss it.
He won't see it.
And if I'm after, he'll probably be gone.
He's out of here.
I've got to be there immediately prior to his set so he can't miss it.
This is a legit emergency stalker situation.
Yeah. So that's what I'm gonna do. But I've got like 20 minutes. I planned on like shaving my head, maybe shave my balls just in case.
No time. Can't do it.
No time because of this fucking podcast. So
got to just show up stinky and dishevelled,
and
slightly manic, which will be sure to impress him.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing tonight.
Oh, well,
so I've got to go.
I'm going to do a bit of Ubering.
Well, you're probably going to Uber me to the Thirsty Dog.
Yeah, I guess. I was going to edit this podcast, but yeah,
right.
Okay.
Well, you got 20 minutes.
Yeah, I guess that's all I need.
Yeah. So the show is over. But please do go and find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Guy and Harley. There I'm going to share the link again to my t-shirt sales. I'm also going to share the personalised I Survived a Zombie Holocaust DVD link there as well. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, please go and check that out. Also, we're on Patreon. If you go to Patreon and search for Pigville, you'll find us. Now, we've got 2 patrons, Nick and Jeremy, and they are awesome. And basically, they get a small charge whenever we release a video. So, it might only be $1 per video, and it might be a maximum of 1 video per month, but that still means that we get some money back for every video we put out. So if you guys are interested in contributing to our next project, please go along to Patreon and search Pigville. I'll also share that on the Facebook page.
The show is over, but our journey is not.
It's just beginning.
We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Guy and Harley podcast, proudly brought to you by Pigville Productions.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.